All right, chickadees, we are moving on. We are getting into the meat of it. I am very excited. First things first, I want to let you know if you have a paper and pencil on hand, or a pen, or a crayon, or, I don't know, a wall. I'm just kidding. Please don't write on your walls. I recommend that you follow along with me. If you don't have those things, no big deal. Remember, this video is recorded, so you can always go back and watch it again if you have questions. Our goal today is to divide whole numbers that have answers or quotients less than 0. So these are going to be decimal answers with no whole numbers right now. We also want to make sure that we're checking our work with multiplication. This is one of the best ways to help us be successful, is making sure that we remember to check our work. All right, team members, that said, let's jump in. I am going to write the division sentence. 1 divided by 4 equals. Now, before we do anything, I want you to look at that and decide in your head which number is the one that's being broken into small equal groups. All right, it is the 1. The 1 is our dividend, and it's the one that's going to be broken into small groups. That means that the 4 is our divisor. It's the one doing the dividing and telling us how many groups we are going to create. Now that we've addressed that, I'd like you to think about and write down, if you can, what fraction is represented by this division sentence. All right, team members, if you wrote 1 over 4, or 1/4, you're right there with me. You may have also chosen to write an equivalent decimal like 2/4 or 4/16. If you wrote a different one, that's totally fine. This one is going to be the most direct one, and because it's in simplest form, it's probably going to be the easiest one for us to solve right now. That said, let's jump in and write this problem out so we can solve it using long division. I want to give myself a little more room. Let's put it right down here. Got plenty of space. So we need to think about which number is going inside the house and which number is going on the outside. The number on the inside is the one that's going to be broken into small groups, so that's going to be our 1. And the one on the outside is the one telling us how many groups to create, or doing the dividing. That's going to be 4. So right away we look at this. We know 4 is greater than 1. 4 cannot fit into 1 any times. A big old goose egg, guys. So this is where our idea of equivalent decimals come in. We know that 1 is equal to 1 0/10. So let's try that. Anytime we put a decimal inside our division house, we want to pop it right up into the same spot in our quotient where our answer is going to be. That's going to help us keep track of our place value. Now, this number hasn't changed. It's still 1 0/10, but we're going to think about it like it's 10 because we've given it those extra digits. So now we can say, how many times can 4 fit into 10? We can count by 4s, 0, 4, 8, 12. Well, I know 12 would be too much, so we go back, and if you were counting along with me, you see that that is 2 times. Now we're going to do a little multiplying. 2 multiplied by 4 is, you got it, 8. Now we need to do some subtraction, and that will leave 2 left over. Our next step is to decide how many times can 4 fit into 2. Well, it can't. What does that mean that we have to do? All right, just like before, we know that 1 is equal to 1 0/10. Well, it's also equal to 1 0/100. So we can just add another 0 there, and we need to drop it down. Drop it like it's hot, you guys know. And now we can say, how many times does 4 fit into 20? We can count that out. Maybe you have this one memorized. It is going to be 5. Nice job. If you put a 5, you're right there with me. 5 times 4 is 20. We'll do a little quick subtraction, and we know that there is nothing left over. Congratulations, us. We have solved this division problem, but there's something left that we need to do. Think about what we need to do. All right, if you're remembering that we must check our work, you've got it. Let's go to a different color for fun. Beautiful. Let's check our work with multiplication. Now, here's a really important thing with multiplication. We need to know which numbers to multiply. If we multiply our dividend here by any of these numbers, is that going to work? It's not going to work. One way we can be sure right now is we know that our dividend right now is 1. We know 1 multiplied by any number is going to be itself. So if I multiply the dividend and the divisor, that's going to say 1 times 4 equals 4. Well, that definitely doesn't match up with our fact family here of 25 hundredths. If we tried it the other way and multiplied our dividend by our quotient, that would be 1 multiplied by 25 hundredths, and that would just equal 25 hundredths. We know that doesn't match the 4. We know we need a fact family when we're checking our work, so we should have all the exact same numbers. So we know that we cannot use this dividend. So what we need to do is multiply the quotient and the divisor. When we multiply those together, this should equal the dividend every single time. That is how we will know we're correct. Now, we know we can multiply in any order. I always like to put the number with the most digits on top to make my process a little bit easier. It means that I will have fewer partial products. But remember, you can do this any way you like. As you look at this multiplication with decimals, you might be thinking, wow, my brain feels a little sleepy right now. It feels a little dusty. I haven't done this in a while. No big deal. One way to think about this is thinking about some lovely quarters. We know that quarters are 25 cents, and we know that we're going to have 4 of them right now. There's my little quarters. And so you might think in your head, okay, I see where this is going. Let's do some multiplication and see if you catch along with me. If you already did, I'm sure actually you guys already did because you guys are super, super brilliant. But let's just do it. 4 times 5 is 20. Carry your 2. 4 times 2 is 8. Plus 2 is 10. Carry your 1. 4 times 0 is 0, plus 1 is 1. All right, so 25 hundredths multiplied by 4 is 100. I hope you are yelling at your computer screen. No! Actually, probably don't yell. Your family members might not appreciate that. Maybe shake your head vigorously. It is not 100 because we left out a very important step. We must place our decimal. Get a dark green just to show how serious I am about placing our decimals. So we know when we look at both of our factors, we need to see how many digits are behind the decimal point in our factors. I have 2 digits behind the decimal point in my first factor, and I have no digits behind a decimal point in my second factor. So that tells me that I must have the same number of digits behind the decimal point in my product. This is really important because we know that we're multiplying by a number that's less than 1. So that's going to make our product a smaller number. Now, you might be thinking back to these quarters and saying, well, yeah, that was pretty obvious. In this patch, there are 4 quarters in $1. So this all kind of stacks up. And what's really exciting is we have proven here with our dividend and our product that these are the same number, which means we have very successfully answered this problem. All right, guys, I know I really broke that one down. I went super slow. We're going to do one more example. We'll go a little bit more quicker pace for you. So I'm going to get rid of all this stuff, and we'll just do one more together. All right, I would like to do the problem. That's not going to work. I'd like to do the problem 4 divided by 5. Think closely here about which number is your dividend and which number is your divisor. Which number is being broken into groups and which number is doing the dividing. That's right, 4 is going to be our dividend. It's being broken into pieces, and 5 tells us how many groups we're going to create. If we want to write this as a fraction, go ahead and get this written down. All right, that's correct. Our fraction is going to be 4/5 or 4/5. Now let's do a little long division to check our answer here and see what our decimal quotient will be. So we know that the number that's going to be divided is always the number we say first. If I'm reading this division sentence here, I'm going to read it 4 divided by 5. That means the 4 is going to be the one that's divided by. It's telling you right there what's happening. Even with our fraction here, we say 4 first, the 4/5 or 4/5. It tells us that the 4 is the one being divided and the 5 is doing the dividing. And even when I see the problem in this house like this, I'm still going to read it 4 divided by 5. So always keep that in mind. Alrighty, right away we can look and say, well, 5 does not fit into 4 any times. A big old goose egg. And, you know, we can do that. 0, blah, blah, blah. We're still going to have 4. We already know it cannot fit in. So we need to create an equivalent decimal. So let's put our decimal in there. And we know we need to move it right up to our quotient immediately. That's just going to help make sure that we don't forget it. Ooh, I'm sure you guys can see how my pen's working. That's awesome. All right, we make this equivalent decimal here, and we need to drop down the 0. Now we can right away say, well, how many times does 5 go into 40? We can count by 5s, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. All right, I hope you were counting with me. That would be 8 times. We multiply this out. 8 multiplied by 5 is 40, and that leaves us with nothing left. I do want to make sure that we are remembering here, I am saying 8 multiplied by 5 equals 40, but what we're really doing here is saying 8/10 multiplied by 5 equals 4. And that carries our decimal straight through what we're doing. It's just a little bit easier to talk about it without the decimal. So that's exactly what we're looking at here, team. Let's do a really quick multiplication to check our work. Once I pick what color I want, let's try this one. Alrighty, remember we need to multiply our quotient by our divisor, and it should equal our dividend. Alrighty. Let's do this. 5 multiplied by 0, and 8/10. 8 times 5 is 40. You don't have to do this 0, but if you'd like to, you can. Start by putting your placeholder, then do 0 multiplied by 5 equals 0. Add your partial products. 40. So 5 multiplied by 8/10 is 40? I don't think so. We need to review our products. There's nothing behind the decimal in my factor of 5, but there is 1 digit behind the decimal in my factor of 8/10. Move that bad boy right over, and look at us. Whoop, 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 whoop. Whoop. Ooh, beautiful. All right, team members, I hope you were excited by my beautiful art and math. I hope you're feeling confident in yourself as you go into the following problems. Remember, if you have any questions or you need any help, you can always reach out to me. You guys have Google Classroom, my email, my phone number to call or text, and go be awesome.